His light shines forth brilliantly through me and as me. I would also like to acknowledge that our beautiful flowers this morning are a gift in memory of Elise Shaw. Many of you may have remembered Elise from a little girl when she was a part of our community, and her mom, Christy, was with us this morning. And so thank you for Christy for allowing us to share in the celebration of Elise's life. And our technology is just not wanting to work with us this morning for some unusual reason. There we are. So here we are, the last Sunday of June. We are midway through our annual theme, we're midway through our annual theme, Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. And our theme for the month of June is the soul's call, and today we're looking at the soul's call to freedom. And I'm getting an echo. Is that from my mic? No, I'm turned off.
Is your sound on?
Okay.
Is the sound on your Zoom computer?
Yes.
Turn it.
No, it is off.
Oh.
Yeah, on my screen it is off.
Well, I'm going to turn your mic off. This is not working.
Okay.
You have to go to the end.
Okay.
And
Will,
what?
can you hear me through this mic?
Use the hand.
Is this better now?
Yes.
Okay. The magic of all that there is. And we know that there's only one thing happening here, and that is Spirit expressing. And so as we wrap up June, our monthly context has been a focus on the words of Carl Jung, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. And we're invited to daily heed the soul's call, the call that is deeply intimate, challenging, powerful, and our globally beneficial work. We recognize that when one awakens to oneself, when we awaken to ourself, that it impacts the global consciousness of the entire planet. And this is one of our missions as spiritual beings living in this human experience, to make a difference, to be that place, be that container that allows the evolutionary consciousness to evolve and expand. And so turning to our Centers for Spiritual Living Global Vision, the statement for today is, we see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with their highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other. A world in which individually and collectively we are called to a higher state of consciousness. And we're called to this higher state of consciousness by our action and involvement in what is happening around us. And from our Science of Mind principles, the timeless wisdom for today is freedom. Freedom is the birthright of every individual. We are free to choose and create our life experience. And I add to that, as long as it does no harm to me and as long as it does no harm to anyone else. This is another one of our principles of daily living, is to do no harm. And so in choosing the life that we choose to create and experience, we remember that our job is to do no harm. Ernest Ernest Holmes expands a little bit more on his comments on freedom by saying, as the inner light draws, it delivers the outer light from bondage. As the inner light draws, as the inner light dawns, it delivers the outer light from bondage. This is in line with the teachings of everything from within and from without. When the soul knows freedom, the law will free the body, and the outer life will express health, happiness, and success. All things work for our good. I know we've heard that growing up, at least I've heard it growing up, and especially in metaphysical teachings. All things work together for our good, even when it doesn't look like it. Even that which we call evil is salutary, says Holmes, leading us to the way, the truth, and life. And so in alignment with this, suffering should teach us a lesson which would cause us to refrain from making our own mistakes. Suffering carries with it a blessing when we learn to gain greater knowledge from the experience. Suffering is optional. Suffering is optional. We make that choice. And through the suffering, we gain, or what we identify as suffering, we gain greater experience for our journey. And several illustrations to highlight this point of view. The first one is a real easy one. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. And know this beyond any shadow of a doubt. Be yourself. The world will adapt. Believe it or not, the world will adapt to me being myself, to each one of us being ourselves. The world will adapt. In the Netflix documentary Disclosure, which I think I've started at least 2, maybe 3 times watching it and fall asleep at some point. But in this documentary Disclosure, transgender and non-binary people discuss what it is like to grow up seeing so many images of themselves in the media. And what they share in this is that the roles for transgender actors were often delegated to prostitutes, psychopaths, or characters who were hiding from their biological gender identity. And we move forward to today. Transgender people have more visibility and acceptance than ever before. And there is still progress to be made. Recognizing that the universe has shifted to correspond to the community's demand to express themselves authentically, normalizing the they-them pronouns, and expanding our definitions of gender and sexuality, remembering authentically, we are all an embodiment of the divine. We're all an embodiment of the divine. And Holmes identifies this in The Science of Mind. We are to see the Spirit creates all things by the power of its own word, and that we are spiritual beings. We are here to be that inner voice of truth, which is ever proclaiming the freedom of life, the eternal unity of God within. We're all here to see Spirit creates all things by the power of its own word. And the second illustration, and I like this is another good one. We're not born to fit in. We're born to stand out. We're not born to fit in. We're born to stand out. And Lady Gaga captures it in her song, Born This Way. I am beautiful in my way, because God makes no mistakes. I am on my track. Baby, I was born this way. And so regardless of what anyone says, our unique gifts define our life purpose, and it is our responsibility to be ourselves. Our unique gifts, that which we came into this life form to express, is what defines us. And it is our responsibility to be ourselves. The more we express authentically, the more we inspire others to do the same. And this is how we create a world that works for everyone. To be ourselves while showing unconditional love and acceptance to others who are expressing themselves authentically. And again, I add the disclaimer, as long as it does no harm. If we keep that in mind, being ourselves, and when we're being our authentic self, when we're being those authentic expressions of spirit, we do no harm, because spirit knows no harm. So when we're living our life purpose, we're not doing harm to ourselves or to anyone else. Deepak Chopra in The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success writes this: to be grounded in this experience, you have to be grounded in the wisdom of uncertainty. And I would say we've had some upfront and direct experiences of uncertainty for this last year and a half, and it continues. And we talk about creating the new normal, and as soon as we think we're on the right track to a new normal, something else pops up on the radar screen that says, oops, deal with this. And so when we live in this area of uncertainty, we find the freedom to create anything that we want. That's one of the beauties of living in uncertainty. And it can be very scary for those of us who are accustomed to a routine and who likes things to go a certain way. We're comfortable with knowing, and we're uncomfortable with the not knowing. And then there are those of us who thrive in the area of not knowing. It's like, oh, what can I create next? Reminds me of a little kid as they're learning to explore what is around them. It's like, okay, what is behind this table? What is over on this side? What is up there that I can't quite reach yet, but I know I'm going to get to it at some point? Or they get creative and see us climbing up on a ladder or a step stool, and the next thing you know, they're up on the step stool. The creativity of the innocence. And the third illustration this morning is mistakes are blessings that serve as an opportunity for lessons learned. I wish I had known this, especially when we were raising our daughters. I wish I had known that mistakes are blessings, because I was brought up that you have to be right. You have to be the best at what you do, because everyone else is looking at you as from the standpoint of a way of tearing you down. So you have to be perfect in every way. And it wasn't until later in my adult years that I really grasped this concept that we learn from our mistakes if we are allowed and encouraged to look at it not from a punitive aspect, but to look at it from a learning opportunity. And so now we ask, what did we learn from this? What did we learn from this experience that can allow us to go forward and not make the same mistake again? And I think that's the key. We learn from the mistake with the intention of not repeating it, but learning the lesson that allows us to expand and grow. And a couple of examples. The mistakes learned from the civil rights movement of the 1960s are being used as guidance for the civil rights and social justice movement we're experiencing today. The technology that we have grown accustomed to, which certainly is filled with uncertainty. Our cell phones, an example. Our computers, our new electric cars. All of these are developments from lessons and mistakes learned in the past. And I know both my cell phone and my computer have been challenges for me recently. And I will say something on my computer and I go to find it and it's like, I know I saved it in this folder, in this particular drive, and it takes me on a wild goose chase to find it. And then there are other things that open it up and it's right there. And so I'm saying to myself, go figure. And I know in the long run that it all works out, that everything works out. Another example of this is that people around the world are showing unconditional love and acceptance of our brothers and sisters who identify as LGBT. Loved ones are learning from the mistakes of previous generations to acknowledge and accept. And we go back to Lady Gaga. I was born this way. We were born this way. And it is not a mistake. It is not a sin. It is not an error. We're all precious in the sight of this eternal loving Spirit. And so as we celebrate Pride Month, as we come to the end of the celebration of Pride Month, I acknowledge all of those members in the LGBTQA+. I get confused with the initials, so I know there are people who will come to my rescue and say, okay, Reverend Robert, this is the way you go with this. But I'm learning, and I welcome the instructions, I welcome the lessons from this. And I love this from the book Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. The prerequisite to true freedom is to decide that you do not want to suffer any more. You must decide that you want to enjoy your life and that there is no reason to stress, inner pain, or to have fear. The prerequisite to true freedom is to decide that you do not want to suffer any more. And so the takeaway that leads us to our call to action that I offer to you this morning is the word namaste. The word namaste. Namaste is a clarion call for the soul to express its beingness freely, boldly, unapologetically, and to be fully what is already available to us. Namaste is a Sanskrit greeting that I believe all of us, or most of us, are familiar with, that in essence says, the spirit in me sees and recognizes the spirit in you. And in traditional Indian culture, it is a greeting that is offered to elders or teachers as a way of recognizing the wisdom that the one sitting with the elder or the teacher is to receive. And it has become westernized. And it was interesting, I was reading that in one of the holiest cities in India, that the merchants are now using namaste as a greeting for everyone who comes in. This particular city attracts a lot of tourists. And so the locals have become westernized with using the greeting namaste. And this gets into another discussion for another time, but this is an example of cultural appropriation, where something is taken from a culture without the full understanding of its meaning and significance to that culture and adopted into a different culture. That's a subject for a different talk. We must recognize the divine in ourselves, emancipate ourselves, and be the true metaphysicians who heal ourselves first. To successfully operate the Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman, in order to free others, could only do so because she herself was free. We are the ones that the world has been waiting for. We are the ones that the world has been waiting for. Any challenges we've ever faced in our lives have prepared us for this moment, this eternal moment of now. This is the time to commit to showing up authentically and choose to live the life that we have always dreamed. The more we choose to live authentically, the more we inspire others to do the same. And when we show unconditional love and acceptance to others, we are serving by example. We've heard the expression that your actions speak much louder than your words. And so when we serve others, that is the example that we are practicing the life that we have been called to live. And to say this another way, we're to be intentional and respectful. Intentional and respectful in all that we do. And so a spiritual practice that I invite us to incorporate along with our reflective questions and journaling that's applicable to our topic today is meditate on the most authentic self of your version. Most authentic version of yourself. Meditate on the most authentic version of yourself. What activity are you performing? How are you dressed? What does your speech look like? As you're identifying this authentic version of yourself, what activity are you performing? How are you dressed? What does your speech sound like? What would it feel like if you showed up as your authentic self in every space that you were in? I was listening to a meditation talk this morning by someone that I follow, and the offering was to think about the activities of the day, to think about every activity that you're going to be involved in just today, and to see yourself engaged in that activity. What is required? What are you looking like? What are you dressed like? How are you dressed? Very similar to this. And so when we do this with intention, when we set an intention for how our day is to show up, it shows up according to the intention that we set. And if something else comes up on the radar screen, then we're better able to flex and flow with the direction that the universe is giving us. And so our questions for reflection based on today's topic: how often do I show up authentically? And I've asked our tech team to drop these into the chat and into the comment section on our Facebook page. How often do I show up authentically? If I were living a life of freedom, how would my life look? And what is my soul's desire? And this may be the most important question to ask. What is my soul's desire? And our affirmation for the week is, I consciously and confidently choose to live my own truth. I consciously and confidently choose to live my own truth. And I invite us to pray together, turning within to the place again where the all-prevailing presence of Spirit is absolutely all that there is. I unify myself with this presence, and I bring into that unity and into the awareness of my oneness with Spirit, the oneness of everyone that is gathered in this space this morning, everyone that is viewing this via technology, either in this particular time and space, or will be reviewing at a later point in time. Recognizing that time and space is a human dimension, and that in this infinite mind of Spirit, there is no such thing as time and space. And so I call forth from within each one of us the intention to be respectful of ourselves first, and to live a life that is intentional, to live my authentic truth, to express my authenticity as I was born to express, to move through the world with compassion and grace and ease, and to do no harm in the process, knowing that everything is always unfolding for my highest and best good, and the highest and best of everyone that is around me. And in recognizing that the truth known any place is the truth known in every place, I bless centers and churches and places of worship where people are gathering in the name of the source that is recognized in the heart space of each individual, knowing that there are many paths that lead to the one source. In some of our paths, we find ourselves walking hand in hand, arm in arm, side by side. In some of our paths, we find intersecting with each other. Intersection. We focus on how it is that the Spirit is calling us to as our authentic selves, knowing that each and every one is doing the very best that they can at the level of their awareness at that particular point. And I bless those who hold a prayer request in their hearts, their prayer requests for peace and understanding and clarity, that prayer request for absolute divine perfect health, their prayer request for those who are facing a medical procedure, knowing that the same mind that created the instruments for the procedure is the same mind that is guiding the ones using the instrument for whatever the procedure is, knowing that the outcome is total healing, total wellness, total well-being. And I speak my word for those who are seeking divine, right, and perfect livelihood, knowing that there are limitless possibilities within the mind of God. And so, as I tap within and identify my authentic self, and I ask the Spirit to reveal my soul's purpose, I know that what is revealed for me is also revealed for each one who asks. The scripture declares, knock and the door shall be opened. But we knock at the door of our heart, knowing that the door that opens is the door of the mind that is an inlet and an outlet to this infinite connection with Spirit. And so for this, and for so much more than I have words to say or the images come to my mind in this moment, I am eternally grateful. Releasing this word, releasing this service into the law, I know that all is well. And I just allow it to be so. And I invite you to affirm this with me as we say, and so it is. And now is the time for us to participate in the divine flow of the all good. This knowing that life is forever increasing and expressing itself in and through and as each and every one of us. And we share and we say our statement of abundance together. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance, consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. I realize the physical substance as an outer symbol of my inner supply into the physical world. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And I also take this opportunity to remind our audience in our virtual community that practitioners and ministers are available to support you with prayer and spiritual guidance and spiritual counseling, spiritual coaching. And if you're a subscriber to our newsletter, you will find our information in the newsletter. And if you're not a subscriber, this is an opportunity to go to our Facebook page and to our website and click on the sign up for the newsletter. And as we share our abundance, there's an opportunity to mail in your check, to visit our secure website, or to text to give. And I just say thank you with much gratitude to each one who continues to support the center. And it is through your support that we continue to expand the resources to bring to you the messages of encouragement and to offer the classes and the other services that we offer, as well as to recirculate our abundance out into the community. And so I invite you to join us next week as we begin our July series, and the title is Pulled by Vision. And the talk for next week will be We Hold These Truths. And so I invite you to connect with us and just see where this may take us. And so to our virtual community in Facebook and our YouTube family, I do say thank you and God bless you as you continue through this day and all days.